Thanks for tuning into the Pre-Patch Podcast. Check out these patch notes.
Jeff Keighley decided that Jeff Keighley wanted to do Jeff Keighley things and make this whole entire show be about the Game Awards. The whole show is not about the Game Awards. Please don't sue us or fucking copyright strike us, Jeff Keighley, because we used Game Awards. But the Game Awards, there has been some drama that's kind of come out, and if you're unfamiliar, the Game Awards is in 3 weeks, I think, right?
No,
I'm not mistaken.
December 12th. It's like 4
weeks.
Okay,
I know nominees come out tomorrow. I believe.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
So noms come out tomorrow, but this essentially is a it's the end of the year where games are up for awards and they get basically the game of the year, right? It's kind of the most recognized one. There's a bunch of other ones that are out there. But there's some drama with it. And the first drama that comes to mind here is around the award process. And specifically, I want to talk about two things, right? So one is right down here, which is early access. Are early access games eligible for nomination? I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me see if I can actually get this to come up better here. Let's just make it a little bit bigger, maybe. I don't know, but if you can't, I will read it to you guys. So it says, yes, any game available for public.
I didn't see that.
Public consumption by the deadline is eligible for potential nomination. It's up to the jury to decide if the title warrants a nomination for creative and or technical excellence in a given year.
So does that mean the Monster Hunter Wilds demo is up for Game of the Year this year?
I don't think it's early access. It's not
early access is different than like alpha or play tests.
It says any available or any game available to public consume by deadline is eligible for potential nomination. That is a game that was available for consumption.
That's a demo. That's not early access.
That's still they're talking only early access titles.
DLC.
Yeah,
could be. It's expansion packs, maybe.
No, shut up, sit down. No, absolutely.
To be honest,
not.
I whatever about this, because to me, early access now is just a stamp on games that developers use in a lot of cases just to get people into a game that is already going to release and just say there's going to be problems with it, so we're just going to put early access on there so we don't, it's a scapegoat. Now.
That's not entirely true, though, because there are a lot of instances where games go into early access and then never release.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So didn't Project Zomboid stay in early access for fucking years?
Yeah, for a long time. So did 7 Days to Die.
It's a scapegoat tag now. That's all. It didn't used to be. People actually used it to raise money for development of games. Now it's we can put that on there and we can get away with having a shit quality game.
But should we reward that with a Game of the Year title?
Well, I don't know. I'm indifferent because it's just so many games put it on there now. It's really, I don't know, man. So it's weird.
Here's the problem that I have with this, right? Two things, and they mention it very clearly in this block of text. One, if you're a game developer, so let's take No More Room in Hell 2, right? Game launched in early access as an abysmal, buggy piece of shit, right? Yeah. Does that now take them out of the running to be, whenever they decide to go to 1.0, that can they not receive an award? Can they not be considered this game is now launched, it's finally done, we can be considered for Game of the Year? Should they be in it? And and this is where the bigger problem that I have with all of this is that the people that are making the decision is a jury. It used to be and should be based off of the fans. It should be based off of what does the public feel, not
and it's a jury of biased fucking journalists,
right? You're not we don't get to vote who's on the fucking jury. We don't get to vote anything about it.
Not who's on the jury. Yeah, we get 10% of our game. The gamers' vote goes towards 10% of the decision making.
Yeah, that's like saying the presidency is based off the popular fucking.
It's
vote.
ridiculous.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I totally am clear now. I think early access games should be eligible, because if they come out and they want to come out in an early access state and come out with a piece of shit, like No More Room in Hell, they should be eligible for Game of the Year, because they're not going to be voted because they came out early access, but they don't get that opportunity a second time when they go full release.
Yeah, but that's the problem. I bet you will. I bet you. I guarantee. Mark my words.
That's bullshit.
You'll have.
Yeah, if they do, that's bullshit. But I would rather them come out, be like, yeah, we want to come out early access, and we know our game's crap. And so what? Then you're just not going to get a game of the year.
I hard disagree with you on that one. I'm sorry. I hard disagree. If they are not willing to release their game and they want it to be released in early access, they should not be in contention for a game of the year. No matter how hard, no matter how good it was.
Then when they go full access, should they be?
Yeah, 100%. Once it releases fully, yeah.
You guys are saying the same thing, but what Scruffy is saying is basically saying like, hey, what you're saying is that
he's saying that game of the year, that he should be able to be game of the year as an early access title.
But he's saying it's a deterrent. It should be a deterrent.
Yeah,
right. It's like, so you guys are in a way you're going around.
We're kind of saying the same thing, but
because it's a deterrent. Scruffy is saying it's a deterrent to if you go into early access and you get nominated for Game of the Year, it should be looked at as a deterrent and should make game studios be like, hey, wait a minute, if we go early access and the game is dog shit, we're not going to be we're not going to be nominated. But if we are nominated, we now lose our ability to win a game award fucking 18 years down the road whenever we full launch 1.0.
If they want to go,
the problem is that that's never going to happen. Like the committee will never. They're going to let both of them fucking stand. It doesn't.
That's the problem with the Game Awards, because if that's the case, then it's bullshit and it's rigged.
So I know we was talking about that, but this whole DLCs and remakes.
We're on our next. That's the next one. So
we're getting
there. So you brought it up, Tony. On here, the Game Awards basically is saying that DLC remakes, expansion packs, remasters are all now eligible for these Game of the Year editions. Bill, I'd love to know, because you're a fan of remasters. I'm a fan of remakes and remasters as well. What do you think about this?
I'm a fan, but I don't think DLCs should be put into DLCs, or for that matter. Let's say, for instance, we'll bring up the elephant in the room. We'll bring up Elden Ring. Elden Ring deserved to be Game of the Year. I get it. Elden Ring deserved the Game of the Year. But to have a DLC come up and then try to, from the same game, be Game of the Year again, it's just that's a no bueno. It doesn't sit right for other game companies.
What was the case that happened?
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I want to know what Bill thinks, because he like Tony hit specifically on a game that Bill fucking has molded his entire a big part of his fucking gaming persona around is the Souls. Like Bill
might have the Elden Ring.
What is your thoughts?
As far as DLCs go, it's a no. But we've already had DLCs win categories in the past, so that's
very true, and that should not happen.
Categories, I'm fine with. Like category, no. If it's like best ongoing, I'm fine with that. Like that's
it's not best ongoing. Witcher 3 Blood and Wine won best RPG.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't agree with that.
What they need,
Cyberpunk, whatever it's the DLC for Cyberpunk won its category.
Yeah, which should not have.
It's very subjective, but there's a simple fix to it. Just add a DLC category.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. I said last year. I think we said
the same thing.
Yeah, I said last year that I don't feel like a remake should be nominated for a Game of the Year. I understand where you're coming from. I get it. Like if it's a completely different game and it's new, like the Silent Hill, the remake for Silent Hill having new content in it, right? Like that's great and everything like that. But like if you want to nominate that kind of shit, make its own category. Make a remakes and remaster category. Like it shouldn't be game of the year.
A little more leniency with remakes compared to remasters, but it's still I
don't. It's still the same thing.
I disagree because
same but different. It's
get the fuck out of here, bro. Interview. Same but different. I'm sorry, but I disagree on that because
politic fucking reply.
Look at
kind of the same thing, but it's kind of not.
You need to watch the interview, Enigma. Please go watch the interview if you've not seen it. Because like Bill played Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth and all that. those are complete. Like, yes, the storyline, the story beats, but those are completely different games. Like, they're not the same game.
Those aren't a good comparison because they actually are different games.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
but by Enigma standard, he's saying
like like meta style, like it is not like it's not comparable to the original Final Fantasy VII because they are changing the story. They are changing actual crucial aspects. It is more of a sequel to those games than it is like a remake.
So make it
like
a sequel.
It is.
I don't. But they're naming it as a remake or a remaster.
There is some gray area to that too, because technically, if you want to make a remaster of a game but then call it a remake just to get into the Game of the Year category, that's also gray area right there. So I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. Maybe really, there should just be its own category again.
I think the reason they didn't make a category for it, there would be either one of two things: an influx of developers trying to make a game, remake a game, or remaster a game just to get into that category, or for that matter, you have one game that was remade. Let's say for Silent Hill was the only game this year that was remade, it automatically wins the category.
So my question is, right, because they remake or they remade or they remaster. I can never fucking get it. Which one? What did they do with Ilaoi or whatever her name is, the fucking robot dinosaur?
Horizon.
Bullshit.
Oh, Horizon.
Yeah, Horizon.
That was
Didn't
a
they do a
remaster.
remaster? So do you think that Horizon remaster should be in Game of the Year?
No. Just like Last of Us remasters, just like any of other remasters. Remasters are just high fidelity quad.
It's such a slippery slope going down it, because like you said, Tony, eventually game companies will go, well, why the fuck should we make new games when we can literally just remaster or remake these old games? Get in fucking Game of the Year, and hundreds upon thousands of people will fucking
and alone too, and to go back to like the whole remake situation too, like I was saying, they could just remaster a game and change like 1% of that game, and then boom, it's a remake now.
Well, they could do the same thing that they did with Silent Hill, where they added 20 hours, whatever, how many hours, 15 hours worth of new content. Be like, well, technically it's new, right?
Yeah, where's that line between how much, like, because I agree, like in some aspect, if you add enough new content to a game and change like story aspects to an old title, I think that would be sufficient to be called a remake. But if you just up-res a game and make the quality better, keep the same story and aspects, so then it's a remaster. So where's that line between remaster and remake? Where's that?
That's the problem.
Exactly.
That goalpost will constantly move. There is no line.
And that's why I think there's too much gray area to make it eligible to be nominated for a Game of the Year.
So my question for you, Bill, is like, what is a remaster that you feel was worth the Game of the Year?
None.
Like, is
remasters are shit.
Or a remake, whatever you
remake.
Remaster, remake. Was there a remake that came out this year or last year that you feel was worthy of a Game of the Year?
Like, what about Resident Evil 4?
Not a Game of the Year necessarily, but like a category. Resident Evil 4, yes. Dead Space, yes. Like the build from the ground ups, yes. I feel like
and see. Like, I'm not arguing with you. Like, 100% they should be a category. Like, they should have their own category.
Recognized
Remake,
for
remaster.
Something, but not Game of the Year. They should be recognized for something, but not.
Question, Bill, do you think that you think that Final Fantasy VII, because like you said, it's more of a sequel? Do you think they maybe in this again, this nuanced fucking nebula that Jeff Keighley has created, like the name remake should not have been attached to that, and it should have just been like Final Fantasy, like they did with Rebirth. Like they did Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? Like they changed it there. Do you think they should have maybe done a different name to it, or do you think that
the name's meta and appropriate because it's remaking the Final Fantasy VII timeline. Like it is an in-game, like, yes, people whenever they first saw it thought it was going to be a 1-for-1 rescale of the original Final Fantasy VII plot, and it's not. That it's a remake of the timeline. It is, and it all affects a sequel to that original timeline. So
maybe
so
the naming convention is confusing as hell.
Yeah,
like it is a completely new game.
So again, is a remake. Like,
so again, my only argument to that is like the only reason why they. Oh, I can't say the only reason why, but like in my eyes, the reason why they said Final Fantasy VII remake was to make sure that they got those nostalgia fucking buys. Why didn't they just say, hey, it's Final Fantasy VII, A Realm Reborn? whatever whatever you want to call it, right? Why didn't they just make an entirely new franchise or an entirely new game out of it? They wanted to lean on that Final Fantasy VII.
I think they could have done it though with just Final Fantasy VII. I think that the point here, because we spent a good amount of time on this specific thing. I think that the point here is, one, I think companies need to stop using remake, remaster in titles and shit. Like, I don't think that it should be named, XYZ remake, XYZ remaster, whatever else. Just like Silent Hill 2 is Silent Hill 2, and Dead Space is Dead Space, and go that route and whatever. I don't think that Silent Hill 2 should be included in any of this shit. Yes, they added a bunch of content. It's not. Oh, I'm sure. Well, it should. I'm sure it will. It's fine, but it's not fine. It's a good game. It shouldn't not be in one of these titles. And I don't think that if they're going to add categories, for fuck's sake, take out the esports bullshit. This is not the esports awards. This is not the esports team shit. Nobody cares about that kind of stuff within the scope of the game awards.
I think adding a new category for remakes and remasters is perfectly fine.
I don't know if there's enough
for the last 2 years. I mean, even if there's not enough, like that, the problem is that again, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. Once these companies are seeing, like, the Silent Hill 2 remake, it did really well. I'm sure that the fucking the Horizon remake will do amazingly well. You're gonna start seeing Sony remaster, whatever. It's the same fucking thing.
It really is.
I think there's enough. Either way, we're going down this generation of so many remasters and remakes too.
Either way you look at it, more companies will latch onto that, and the companies that already latched onto that will continue to do it and continue to remaster and remake these franchises. You're going to see more and more of these coming throughout the years.
For sure.
It's just going to happen. We've already seen it.
We're gonna move on, but I want to give the final word to each person to kind of give their final thoughts. So, Scruff, what's your final thoughts on this?
Add new categories for DLCs and remakes and remasters separately, and DLCs and remakes and remasters should not be nominated for Game of the Year, no matter what.
And Tony?
I agree with everything that man just said. He said it better than I would.
Who's that man? You're Scruffy. All right, cool. Okay. All right. Scruffy's a boy. I just want to make sure that's well known.
I'm a man.
He's not a man yet.
I'm a man.
You can't until you grow that little dirt patch in the middle of your lip. You're not a man, bro.
He dropped his voice. I'm a man.
And Bill, what's your final thoughts? And I actually have an additional question for you on this one to add in. Is remake, remaster? You said that there was a difference. I'd like to know, like to hear your thoughts on the difference of those, and then also your thoughts on this category.
DLCs and expansions should be factored into the ongoing game thing. I think that's fair and fine. Remasters I don't believe they should be included in this because it's just an up-resed version of a game that came out prior. So there's no reason, because somebody like Sony has been doing, where like every 2-3 years they up-res a game, re-release as a remaster, and then what should it be in a category? No, there's no work put into it. It's just a graphical overhaul. Not worth it. Remakes, depending on the remake specifically, like with Dead Space, like with Resident Evil 4. I haven't played Silent Hill 2, but I think those should be category worthy, even potentially Game of the Year worthy, if they are good enough and if they are an overhaul enough to be warranted. But remakes, the effort that gets put into them, rebuilding them, modernizing them, taking something and restructuring it for a modern audience, I think that should be at least appreciated on the award scale.
Okay. Well, there you go, guys. Everybody gave their opinion on it and all of on what we thought. I think we universally agree on this one, which is okay, hit the wrong button. That Jeff Keighley can rightly go fuck himself a little bit. Because he's trying to basically protect the name, the Game Awards, right? Enigma, that's kind of what is happening here. He's trying to trademark the Game Awards.
So what happened was a trademark went public. I thought that they had the actual trademark on this website, but apparently they don't. I don't remember where I saw the trademark at. But it went public. Essentially, he's looking to trademark the Game Awards and anything. I'm pretty sure anything around that entire like phrasing. Right. So
he's trying to trademark the. We can't even use the pre-patch podcast
the Game
anymore?
Awards. No, the Game Awards in that specific lettering, right? And so it's one of those situations where it's like what was it? It was Elder Scrolls that a while ago that tried to copyright Scrolls and the Elder, right? And the Elder Scrolls and anything in between, right? Like you can't trademark stuff like this. Like
Also,
I'm
this is the
sorry,
most
this is-
generic ass font you could ever
Yeah,
fucking
this is
use. Like,
ridiculous,
this is
dude.
like he just went in and got Helvetica and was like, yeah, that's fine. Helvetica, the Game Awards.
And I've heard a lot of people saying that it's because they there was another company or another website that is going by the name of the Real Game Awards, and they're basically game awards that are done by the gamers. They are what Jeff Keighley's Game Awards should be. Yeah, they are what and I said this on Twitter today. Like the Game Awards, I've been watching the Game Awards since their conception, right? When they first started, it was all about the fucking games. It was game,
and
done,
it was community driven. Like,
and
right,
it was
like
the gamers had a lot of a lot of say in it and everything like that. So, but like they've along the years, I don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened. Fucking
money. What are you talking
greed,
about?
greed, and money fucking happened. But along the way, they've alienated the original reason why they made the Game Awards, which was to highlight video games of the year that deserved it. And they went from being that to highlighting their sponsors, essentially. And I said that on Twitter today. It turned from being a celebration of gaming to a celebration of their sponsors. And I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
So everybody knows, the next episode on next Thursday, what date is that?
We're gonna have to name it something else.
It's gonna be called the pre-patch awards for gamers that likes games awards that like PP games. No, can't do that. Not PP games.
PP game awards. The PP awards.
I like that. The PP awards.
The PP awards. So yeah,
God.
we're gonna end up on the wrong site if we
Who's
do
got
that.
the
Holy
PP
shit.
of the year?
Jeff, I think Jeff's getting a little too big for his britches, and I think he needs to kind of pull it back a little bit. He's getting up there where it's just like you're being too pretentious. You're becoming a fucking prick. I'm sorry. Sorry to say. I loved you, Jeff. I loved you, Jeff, but you are becoming that industry standard that I don't like these days. You're becoming the Tim Sweeney.
All right, so like that. We know for a fact we can never have Ubisoft on the show. We're not going to be able to have anybody from Epic on the show, and now Jeff Keighley is not available to be on the show. Okay, all right. And what's the other guy? Jimmy Rye guy. We can't have Jimmy Rye on the show either. Yeah. So, all right.
Or Bobby Kotick either.
Do we really want them on the show? Nobody wants Bobby Kotick. Those guys, you don't want them anyways, so we're good.
All right. Well, moving on. So we're done with the Game Awards. So close the book on that one.
Thank you for checking out the Patch Notes. If you enjoyed this small selection from our podcast, come and join us every Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern for the full, unfiltered pre-patch podcast. And check out our past shows on anchor.fm/prepatch podcast.